Hello and welcome to the Podawakens presents Chronological Clone Wars, our chronological watch through the Clone Wars animated series, part of Logjam Media Network. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, on his first watch of the Clone Wars is Logan. Harry Tay Logan.
I am really good, Jordan. We had at work. I work for a hospital, and they had like Doctor's Day it was actually yesterday, but we celebrated on Thursday, and they had a out of this world theme for their Doctor's Day, and they had lightsabers and stuff. So I was feeling very Sith. I was walking
Festive.
around with a red lightsaber,
Oh, jeez.
and there was a lot of references. And you know what's wild, Jordan, is that uh, there were doctors that are probably about 5 to 10 years older than me that were walking around, and they were actually making references to like Rogue One and Force Awakens, and I was like, that's so strange because I think we grew up we grew up around our parents and our uncles and aunts that watched, and grandparents or whatever, and I think they talked a lot about like Luke and Leia and that storyline, whereas nowadays 5 to 10 years older, like we're all kind of stuck in that Phantom Menace and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
One Wars Attack of the Wars. So I just thought that was really interesting. Was just sitting there and they're all making references to like Kylo Ren instead of Darth Vader. It's wild to me.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I thought you would enjoy that. I forgot to tell you that too.
I'm back from vacation. The
You
listeners
are.
should not notice any difference because we scheduled enough episodes to take us through that. But I saw you in person. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
this nice
Debatable.
hat. Thanks. I got this nice hat from Disney World, which is it looks like Obi-Wan and Vader's blades or Luke and Vader's blades crossing there. I think it's Luke and Vader's blades. Looks like the
Mhm.
Anakin saber. Um, Crossing in an X formation. I've been looking for a Star Wars hat for so long, and this one I saw like day one when we were there, and I was like, "This is it. This is the hat." So that is I've been wearing it everywhere right now, so I'm
Mm.
having a good time with that.
I had a question
Um,
for you before
yeah,
we jump in, kind of talking about lightsabers. Is there like backstories in behind why sabers are certain? I know obviously Sith are red, but like I noticed, I think it was in this batch of episodes. It might have been the next. I can't remember which one. But I noticed that the Master's Jedi saber was green and the Padawans was blue. And I thought that was strange because that was the same way that Qui Gon and Obi Wan. I mean, they were
mm,
green and blue. Like I just wondered if there was a reasoning in behind their crystal colors, or if there was.
I'll tell you that is going to be a season 5 arc of the Clone Wars.
Is it really?
Yeah,
That's
we
wild.
see we see younglings make their lightsabers.
Uh,
Um,
is it more
uh,
like my favorite color kind of thing?
I would say it's probably more of a Harry Potter wand situation,
Okay, gotcha. The color
if I
choosing.
remember correctly from my watch of it. We'll see when we get there again, I guess. But
Gotcha.
that's what I remember.
Because I was just confused. Because in Fallen Order, you make your own and you
Yeah,
choose. Ultimately, it doesn't choose you. So.
yeah. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. While I was on vacation, of course, the Acolyte trailer dropped.
Mm.
This is dropping like 2 weeks after our episode of the Acolyte trailer dropped. But in case of you missed it and you only listened to our Clone Wars episodes, you can go back and listen to me and my friend Ron talk the Acolyte trailer. And probably starting the week that this episode releases, I will be releasing our High Republic Road to the Acolyte series, as I've recorded a few of those already. And we'll be talking each book of the High Republic Phase 1 as we build up to the Acolyte, which we were guessing off of rumors would premiere June 5th. It's premiering June 4th. That's confirmed now. So if you hear us say in an episode, and I think I mentioned this on there, I know there's one episode that releases like the week after we're recording this, and we mention maybe the June 5th date, and we also mention like it's not for sure. We haven't seen a trailer, and we have now. So if you hear that, that's just us being from the past before that had dropped. Um, but yeah, so we try to knock out about 2 of these a week because we're trying to prepare for the inevitable travel Logan's going to be doing and fatherhood stuff that's going to be happening to me. So if any big news happens, I'm sure we will have episodes about it on the main feed of the Pod Awakens.
Let's just hope you don't cut your kid's hand off.
I will try my best. Logan, any thoughts on the Acolyte trailer before we dive in? Did you watch it?
I love the when you see a lot of little Padawan.
Yeah.
I I don't know. It looks again like a Jedi killer, and then all those Jedi going up against the Sith Lord. Uh, it gave me very Avenger versus Thanos kind of vibes. And if this
Mm.
person's a Jedi killer, I'm really excited about that. Just because one, I think we all like Grievous a lot, which is weird to say. And he's kind of that assassin that goes out and takes out Jedi. So I'm excited about this one. I don't know too much about what goes on, so I'm gonna have to listen to your podcast, right? Relate
Yeah.
to the
There you
pod,
go.
so
You can
gotta
listen
listen to it. Yeah,
to that.
but no, it again. I think they did right by slowing down a lot of these releases as far as Star Wars is concerned. I know Disney's made a concerted effort to kind of slow down the production and make sure the stories are right. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping it kind of goes back into what it was like with, which I don't think they've really missed on. To be honest with you, I don't think they've missed on any of the Star Wars ones. But
Yeah. All right. Let's dive into today. We're talking Heroes on Both Sides, Pursuit of Peace, and Senate Murders. We're finally wrapping up that season 2, midway through season 3 here. Did you notice also during these episodes the new models for the characters? I'm not sure. They do a very good job of transitioning this, but in the original uh first 2 seasons, Anakin's wearing this, right? He's wearing like the clone armor on, like armor on top. Starting in season 3, especially about halfway through, I started noticing this because I noticed Ahsoka's different look that we'll get to. But Anakin now is wearing like his episode 3 attire, and he's got maybe just a little bit of like wrist guards, I think, are the only thing he has. And Obi-Wan, which used to have the clone armor on top of his shoulders,
mm-hmm.
is now only having them on the wrist guards as well. So what it looks like what they're doing here is transitioning these characters to their looks in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
I guess I didn't really. I noticed with Anakin. I guess I didn't really notice with. I guess because you see a lot of Anakin. But yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to pay attention to see how they. I thought you meant like the way that they're shaped or CGI, because I know
I
as I
think
look
they did
forward.
change a little bit of them too. But
Yeah.
Ahsoka is now a little taller. She looks a
Mm-hmm.
little different. She now has like full clothing, no longer showing like midriff
Right.
area. She's got 2 lightsabers now. We're kind of like really transitioning Ahsoka into. I would assume this is supposed to be like a year in now. Like this is kind of like a year into the Clone Wars, and she's kind of growing up a little bit here.
Yep.
But it happens just so suddenly. And the thing is, we hadn't seen Ahsoka in a while, actually. I think she wasn't in a few episodes that we had been watching. So when she pops up in this like Heroes on Both Sides episode, she looks a little different than what she had looked when we first started.
That's pretty good continuity though, because it's kind of like your favorite. Like I grew up watching Home Improvement, and by season the boys grew up because they're in that 10 to 16 age range when you really change and your body's changing. So yeah, Ahsoka I did notice getting taller, but and more mature too. Like you start to see her attitude change a little bit, but yeah, it is pretty cool that they keep up with that even in kind of a voiceover and an animated series.
Yeah, I think that's always good too, because like we're so used to like with animated shows like Tommy
Mm-hmm.
Pickles wearing the same thing all the time,
Yeah, The
and
Simpsons looking the exact same for 20 some odd
yes,
years.
30 some now, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot.
So yeah, so it's nice to see like some of these animated shows have them like different outfits. Like Padme wears different stuff
Yep.
like all the time, and I love that. I love that.
She's got great looks. Like they should do like a fashion GQ of just like not, I guess it wouldn't be GQ, it'd be Vogue or something, but of
Yeah.
all the Padme. Somebody probably has that out there. Let's go take a look at it. But her fashion's great.
It's something that struck out to me while we were watching these episodes specifically. I guess because I was thinking about the Ahsoka model, and while those characters, because they're Jedi, wear a lot of the same stuff all the time,
Hmm.
when you have Padme and like the budget of this show, George didn't care. Like he's just making this thing by himself. Like he produced all of this stuff, and he just sold it to be aired on TV. And like I, like we were saying with other TV shows, like they put them in the same outfits all the time because it's cheaper to animate that way. Especially like CG, you'd think, okay, we use the same model or whatever. With Padme, they have her in so many different looks, so many different hairstyles, so many different outfits. It like really, I think, shows that they weren't like just taking the easy way out, quote unquote, of being like, oh, here's the same model. They would change that stuff, and I really like that about this show. Makes it feel like more real, I would say. Okay, we're talking Heroes on Both Sides, directed by Kyle Dunleavy, written by Daniel Arkin, and it premiered November 19th, 2010 on Cartoon Network. The Disney Plus synopsis of this is Padme Amidala and Ahsoka Tano travel to Raxus. So we learn that the Republic is near bankruptcy, and there is a bill to propose to deregulate the banks to fund the war. Again, I just have to wonder how people are not like. I get it's a little bit of a reference, I guess, to 9/11, right? Post 9/11, when we were kind of willingly giving up our freedom a lot to make sure we were safe, right? Like, um, off the top of my head, I can't even remember, but like the acts that were like letting um, them like spy on us more, like the
Hmm.
government stuff, right? Like we were willingly doing that stuff so that way we would be feel safer in a time of like hectic stuff. And it's I feel like that's kind of similar to what they're getting at here of like, okay, we're in the middle of a war, we're running out of money to fund the war. The best way to now do that is to deregulate the banks.
Yeah.
But nobody is sitting here thinking, I guess, like, except for Padme and Bail Organa, how dangerous this can be. Deregulating the banks. I don't know why this is the first step they get to fund the stuff. Obviously, the banking clan and the Trade Federation are pushing for this, so obviously they got some sway. They're going to threaten senators at some point. Like that's something that happens that makes them worried about voting against this. It's just very interesting, I guess, the parallels between what George and George Lucas and the writing staff is coming up to when they're doing this comparison between probably like wartime America and wartime um, Republic. What was your thoughts on deregulating the banks? Obviously this is a terrible idea.
Isn't this what they did during the housing crisis too? When they deregulated the banks to try to allow them to bounce back, and then they got into trouble. I think it was like I think that's ultimately. I mean, they were loaning out money that they didn't have. A lot of these financial institutes, and they were. But when you deregulate banks, it's basically allowing the bank to operate and do what they need to make the funds that they need, which I think would involve. It's crazy to me because it's like it's such real world stuff and politics, and I think when I first heard it, I was like, it's kind of weird to hear it in Star Wars terms. But yeah, I think that ultimately allowing the banks to do what they need, it causes issues, obviously, because banks are in the you know deregulating anything. Uh, the entity that you deregulate is going to do anything they can and many means necessary to take control and seize control of what they're actually trying to do.
Yeah, I don't know uh,
I can't
if
remember if they
they
did it or not.
if they actually deregulate them because I feel like look, the first step that happens when these things actually get deregulated in this episode is they racked up the percentage, the loan percentage, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
they're like it was 10%. Oh yeah, under the old rules, but we're gonna do 25% loan rate. What?
yeah.
And when Padme and them push on it, they're like, well, the separatists haven't complained, and this is the thing too. The banking clan is playing with on both sides here, right? Like it is a banking clan. The Trade Federation we know is in bed with the separatists, but they're legally in the middle, and they still have a seat in the Senate, and they're why they're even letting these like federations and banking clans have seats in the Senate is a huge issue. It's like giving McDonald's a seat in the Senate. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like what are we doing? I know that we have lobbyists in our thing, but we don't actually have like JP Morgan voting for stuff in the Senate.
Hmm.
Um, so that's that was something that stuck out to me. So obviously we know because we're seeing everything. We're seeing the Trade Federation, the banking clan talk to Dooku and talk to Palpatine, and then we see them, of course, acting like they're totally uh, on the side of the Republic. But the banking guy is like really open about like, hey, we don't take sides. We're just doing our thing. They didn't complain about the rate increase, so you're kind of out of luck. You either have to take it or you're not going to get the loan that you need. And they say that this loan amount, by the way, is enough to like just bankrupt the Republic by itself without like even if they don't win like if they don't win the war or even if they win the war, they may not be able to pay this thing back. To which I wonder, what happens if the Republic actually goes bankrupt? Like our Republic, our democracy is
Yeah.
trillions of dollars in debt. We're never paying that back. But like since there is a banking clan that would be loaning this money to the Republic, does the bankers just like foreclose on the Republic and take it over? Like what
Seize
happens?
the
Yeah.
Jedi temple. You gotta give us that Jedi temple. You know that palace in Coruscant? Yep, that's ours now. But yeah, no, the deregulation is just so they can ultimately the governments can't have a hand in. That's what ultimately is wanting to happen. They don't want the government regulating anything
Yeah.
that they're doing.
You can do.
These
Yeah.
crime lords, so they love it. It's supposed to stimulate the economy, but it often does the opposite because it just lets people operate as they will.
Yeah,
And
because they could just jump up the rate increase,
right.
right? Like we see that happen in this episode. It
Yeah.
gives them too much power. So the Senate tables the bill for now, and we get Grievous sending cleaning droids to Coruscant. He's going to use these cleaning droids. They're going to like they're going to be like transformers. They're just going to like transform into like these big ass droids that start fighting and taking people out later. And Padme and Ahsoka are going to go visit Padme's friend and mentor named Mina, who is a separatist. And Ahsoka kind of is like, "Whoa, your friend's a separatist?" And Padme is like, "Yeah, but like, uh, it's very fitting to the time that we live in right now. I'm like, oh, your friend's the other party's, you know, your friend is the other political party." But very interesting because these two are actually at war.
Yeah.
And this is what the episode is referring to, heroes on both sides, talking about how there are people on the separatist side who do want the war to actually end. Unfortunately for them, they're being puppeted by Sidious and Dooku, who will not let that happen. What was your thoughts on meeting a separatist and her family who tragically lost their spouse, right? Like she lost her spouse due to clones
Yeah.
attacking, but uh, ultimately they're like the good guys on the separatist side. They are ones that want to end the war as well. What was your thoughts on seeing like them humanize the separatists a bit more than just seeing droids and Dooku?
I think we forget about that aspect of all wars is that you, um, and I mean, we see more of like a social climate, political climate war. I mean, we're kind of in like a weird Cold War politically in the United States where it's, there's, I'd almost say Civil War, Cold Civil War, if you call it that. But it seems like you ultimately think that you can't agree with other people on the other side, but a lot of times, I mean, we make friends with people that you don't know how they align with their political thoughts or their theories or how they think about life, and you just you attach yourself to human characteristics, and for so many people we're so much alike. I think we see on the news, we see on social media, we see through different avenues that people are different. So this was speaking to like a real point, I think, in the fact that while we don't agree politically, um, she has this backstory of a loved one as her husband, right? That was taken by clones, and ultimately, if that happened, and I think you hear stories about this in the Revolution when the Brits would take, or in the Civil War when the South would take one of the North's family members or something like that, or you see some of these aspects of where you ultimately hate that person. I think it's the same way with Din Djarin, right? He hates droids because of what they did to him in his village, and I think that's ultimately what this boils down to. Is just the fact that like one group, one entity from the other side can tarnish and destroy any kind of hope that you would align with the other group. So ultimately she's just like, I hate the clones. And the reason why I don't like Republic ideas is because the clones had such an impact on my family and negatively impacted it. So I love this. This is such a real aspect, but I was shocked. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was shocked that, because you think of such a, especially in fictional um, instances, I think you think, well, those are bad guys and those are good guys, and that's how you separate it. But when you ultimately think about it, and I think one of my favorite character digest is a kind of like digest Vader or digest like a Thanos. Like they have reasons why they're doing certain things.
Yeah, no, this is what you can get into in the cartoon a bit more than the movies. Since the movies were following like Obi-Wan and Anakin to a T, like we're following the heroes that we want to focus on. I like that, like for the TV shows, the cartoons, the live action stuff, they're able to focus more on the little guys at times and get these moments. Like like this of it kind of reminds me of like a little bit of a Andor light here. If people have watched Andor, or haven't, it really focuses on the political aspects from like little everyday people and how the galactic civil war is affecting them with the Empire and stuff like that. Um, Seeing that is kind of what this reminds me of hearing like we see the clones as heroes all the time. It sounds like they just killed this guy while he was camping with like, I mean, obviously he was probably out on the front lines doing something, but like probably didn't have to kill him, right? Probably could have took him as capture. They kill him and it is affecting this woman and her child, who we learn, and Ahsoka talks to her child. I think his name was Lux. About the Jedi, and it's she's the first Jedi he meets, and he mentions stories he's heard about Jedi's, and she mentioned stories she's heard about Separatists, and they're like the first one of each of those that they've ever met that were like normal people that they could connect with. Uh, you know, um, that is such a big thing. That's why also representation matters in a lot of media as well, not just for the people that it's representing, but to show people like everyday people like, oh, this person you're not familiar with, right, is ultimately just a human like you, and it helps bridge that divide a bit in some people's minds, as long as they actually watch this stuff and don't just shout woke the whole time and turn it off. Okay, so we have Mina, who actually mentioned she admires Dooku. Ugh.
that's a bad judge of character there. There's nothing likable about
I
Dooku.
think though, in what he presents, right? He presents himself as like the
Yeah.
Count of Sereno, and
Right.
he is like the leader of the Senate of Separatists. They don't know he's like a Sith Lord. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that they're, I think in their mind, he's just like a normal senator. Um, and meanwhile, Padme and Ahsoka and them obviously know Dooku's not that, because Dooku, shows it. I wonder though, like I wonder how much like the news is broadcasting some of the stuff, especially out in like in the Confederacy, because like I feel like we've seen holograms of Dooku doing like disastrous stuff with his lightsaber. Is that stuff not getting to them over there? Like, do they not see that, or are they like, oh, it's the same thing as having our own Jedi, and they don't get the difference? Like,
Yeah.
because they're like normal everyday people. I wonder about that sometimes.
Well, they probably like in our world they probably have those conspiracy theories or the deniers like, oh, that's AI. They doctored that. There's just no way
Yeah.
that's Dooku. That's Dooku's brother, Doku.
Dooku actually had a sister
Oh,
growing
I
up.
didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. That is in Dooku Jedi Lost, the book, audio drama as well. I think he had a brother as well, but so there, you're right. It could have been his brother. I think they died though. Okay, anyway, Mina admires Doku. Why am I taking after you now? Dooku. They both want to stop the war, though. Like Mina and Padme. Mina's going to try to talk to the Confederate Senate, and she wants to ask for peace. They all vote for peace negotiations, and Dooku's like, "This is great," and then he goes behind their back and is like, "This is terrible. This is not what I planned." He goes to the Trade Federation and Banking Clan. And I like the Banking Clan guy is like, this is not a good look, dude. Your own people you're supposed to have in line is voting for peace, and we're supposed to keep this war going. And Dooku's like, I got that handled. And they do, because they have the cleaning droids that pop up and attack during the Senate vote. And as that is coming in, they pause the vote, power goes all out, and the separatists are blamed. They then vote to deregulate the banks. And that is the end of our first episode. We go into Pursuit of Peace here. Disney Plus synopsis. Padme Amidala, Bail Organa, and Anaconda Farr become targets. That was directed by Dwayne Dunham and written by Daniel Arkin. Premiered December 3rd, 2010. So they had like a 2-week break there between that. Okay, so Padme is still talking to the Senate. Palps receives a message from Dooku. They play the message, and Dooku is claiming that there was an attack on the Separatists from the Republic and that they killed Senator Mina, and now she is dead. This is how Padme learns her friend is dead, by the way, in this whole thing. Bail Organa is like, no, we've got intel saying Mina was murdered by Dooku's thugs. Don't believe this, is what Bail's pretty much saying. I think this might, I know we talked a few weeks ago about like, when did Bail and Padme become really good friends and trust each other? Because she didn't like trust him with the lightsaber thing. I think it's this. I think it's during this run here, because they seem to like how openly Bail's like, the Republic sucks, the Separatists suck. Like, I think she's starting to buy into like, okay, this guy is somebody I can trust to tell like all of these thoughts to. Is what I'm getting from this. Uncle Ano is back. This is the guy that was, if we remember, in an episode way back when Jar Jar is posing as the the Jedi. When they all think, the droids think that he, and the Trade Federation thinks that Jar Jar is a Jedi. This is the guy that was about to join the Separatists. He is a senator. His full name is Anaconda Farr. She calls him Uncle Ano. This is his story here. He's going to end up, of course, dying in the next episode, unfortunately. That takes place back in, or takes place now, but was released in season 2. But yes, Senator Anaconda Farr is here, and he is he knows how the Separatists are, because he almost got like totally screwed by that whole ordeal when Padme had to save him. They try talking to the Banking Clan, and this is when, like I said, they're going to charge the 25% interest instead of 10%. The interest alone can bankrupt the Republic. Uncle Anno is attacked. He like breaks his arm. It's going to be fine in the next episode. That's a little bit of a continuity issue there. Padme and Bale go around trying to find support for the bill to not get passed. Dooku is like, hey, it's time to take Padme out of the game, and he sends some bounty hunters to attack her. Padme says Bale should make a statement. Okay, Padme then is driving around. She thinks she's being followed. She is. She gets attacked. Police droids arrive. The bounty hunters shoot them. Padme steals a speeder. We have this whole speeder bike chase. She gets stopped by the police droids, and the bounty hunters don't attack at that point. Bale does get attacked. The cops do stop the hunters, but Bale is so like hurt he cannot speak. Padme speaks, gets a round of applause, and Palpatine is kind of like talking to Dooku here. Is like, look, we just got to let this ride out. Let them still think they have democracy right now, because they have a plan for the next episode here, and that's how it's gonna go. But I guess, what was your thoughts here? You know what? I remember watching this episode live when it premiered, or that week sometime. I was over at my grandmother's house, and we were watching this on the TV down in the basement, me and my cousins. I knew it was an episode mostly followed on politics and being Padme, and I think it was this one I remember because of the speeder bike chase. That stuck out.
Yeah, I like any time that Padme is involved in the action. But I think you're right. I think this episode cements Bail Organa's trust with Padme just because he seems to always have her back. It's instances like these, Jordan, where I'm like, gosh, it takes them really long to figure out that Palpatine and Dooku are working together, and it's the Chancellor, and there's just too many things that I would be like really hesitant about, and I'd be like, okay, there's a lot of weird things happening, and I know it's in the war and it's during wartime, but it seems like somebody close within the actual Senate is plotting these attacks because they all seem to be directed at other Senate members, and then once you start to realize, like, I don't know, it just seems like by process of elimination we're eventually down to, I mean, I guess the galaxy's huge, so it's a little harder, but
No, you do have to wonder at some point, like, the call is coming from inside the house. Like,
yeah, right.
they're knowing stuff that they shouldn't be knowing.
Mm-hmm. It's like this is definitely the works of an insider. So
Yeah,
let's start to narrow down. Okay, let's bug people's offices. Let's, this would, it
right.
takes them way too long. But again, I
Yeah,
guess,
because all Palpatine does is like immediately turn around, put his hood
yeah,
up, and then
right,
he's like, "All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
time to
changes his voice.
call,
Yeah, it's like, why
time
did
to
you?
call Dooku."
Like, what's wrong with you, man? You got allergies or something? You sound weird.
Yeah, I get how that is. I don't
Yep,
blame him.
yep.
All right, and then season 2, episode 15, we had Senate murders as we finally get to. What's funny is we started off this whole thing with episode 16 of season 2, and now we are going back to season 2, episode 15. The Disney Plus synopsis on this was Padme investigates Senator Anaconda's death. So, little spoiler alert on who would get murdered. If they were releasing this nowadays, it'd be like Padme investigates a senator's death, because like these Disney Plus synopses are not usually that detailed when it comes to like newer stuff, so that way they don't spoil stuff. But yeah, just funny that they would be so open on who's dying. Padme makes another speech against adding clones. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the same speech from the end of the last episode, because there are some continuity things. Like I said, Anaconda doesn't have his broken arm. Bale is like there to talk to her right afterwards, even though he was not well enough to talk to make the speech. But it seemed like it's covering the same point. So I don't know if she's just making another speech like a few days later or what. We meet the senator from Camino, which is interesting. And we learn that this whole making the clones thing was enough to get her like a seat on the Senate. little backroom dealing, I guess.
I was gonna
And
say that's some sketchy crap there.
yeah, and obviously she is for the
Yeah,
continuation of making clones because it keeps their their
keeps her
business
at a
going.
job, right? She's like, nope, shut it down. I'm
Yeah,
on to
no.
different. It's like I'm on to different ventures. I'd like to shut this process down.
Yeah, I don't want to be like pigeonholed into being just the cloners, right? Like we
Yeah,
need to branch out.
yeah. I met some Ewoks. I'd like to hang out with
Yeah.
them.
Oh my Ewok clones.
Ah,
Um
yeah.
Uncle Anno dies. He gets poisoned. Of course, everybody thinks it is the senator from Kimino. How did you know it was going to be this other Rhodian? What's her name? Lulu or what was her? Lolo. Lolo.
Did I know that she'd be the one that killed him?
Yeah, like how long did it take you to kind of get on her,
Up
or
until it
until
happened.
it's revealed?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It took me like I was seriously going, I don't know who this is. I thought for some reason it was the one from Camino. I'm like, maybe it's her, but that'd be weird. Like I don't know. Like I was just like trying to think. I'm like, well, no way Palpatine did it. Like, so yeah, no, I had no idea.
Yeah, I kind of look. Obviously, I'd seen this before, but
Yeah,
like close to probably more like 10 years ago. Um, I don't recall. Uh, like I didn't remember it was her, but I did pick up on it before that. Obviously, they start doing some hints. Like I was kind of suspicious of her. Then obviously, they bring up the, oh, this thing only affects Rhodians, so there's no like that's why nobody else died. And then Padme is like, well, wait a minute. If it affects Rhodians, shouldn't Lolo have been affected? And then, they obviously realize it's her. They do capture her. The vote does go through, though, and they will continue to make clones and they deregulate the banks. Or they deregulated them last time, but this time, now that the deregulation has gone through, they vote to creating clones and spend millions and millions of dollars to do so. All right, so you really were texting me during the week that you liked this batch of episodes and that there were some twists here. Were you referring to that Lolo twist, or was it a different
yeah.
one that I?
Like
Okay,
it was this one leading into next week's episodes that we'll talk about. But like this started that, and um, yeah, no, I think well that, and then the whole fact that like it really just twisted my brain. The fact that she had friends that were separatists. Like here's Padme, who seems to be a really respected or gaining respect in the Senate voice, and she's friends with the separatist, and it's not really ever brought up in the movies. So seeing this idea that she was friends with somebody there, and then how convinced it is, or how convinced she becomes that Anakin's in it for the good, and then it's just wild. Like it's insane to me, that twist, and then
yeah.
getting into this twist, and then the next week's episode is the one that I was.
Oh yeah, next week's
Yeah.
are very good. Are very good
Yeah.
episodes. Um, so we'll be talking about those next week. But yeah, no, this week had some good episodes. I was really digging them, and then I watched next week's, and I was like, oh, this is like probably some of my favorite Clone Wars episodes. So we're in a good time though, because let me tell you, the week after next too is a really good set. So we're gonna be in pretty good territory probably from here on out for a good bit until season 5. I think season 5 has like one arc that is very long that is a little boring to me. So um okay, yeah, so you can share us your thoughts on these batch of episodes, the Senate murder, pursuit of peace, and heroes on both sides. This little run, this is why it's important to watch them chronologically. Imagine seeing Uncle Anno dying and then him popping back up next season and being like, "What? Wasn't he dead?"
Yeah. It would be. This is yeah. It's very confusing to me.
Yeah, and again, I'm pretty sure this was just we killed him off, and then it's like, oh, let's tell the story of how we got to that. I
Yeah.
guess because, like I said, there's little inconsistencies if we're going off of Bale and Uncle Anno's injuries that happen that don't really get mentioned again, but who knows? All right, so next week, our 21st week of recapping chronologically the Clone Wars. We're talking season 3, episode 12, Nightsisters, season 3, episode 13, Monster, and season 3, episode 14, Witches of the Mist. So make sure you watch those episodes. They're very good episodes, all of them written by Katie Lucas, George Lucas's daughter, as we continue going through the show here. She is, I think this is like her biggest arc that she writes. All right, yeah. So that's it. Make sure you follow us at podawakens on all of our social media, podawakens@gmail.com if you want to send us long form emails. Like I said, keep up with us watching chronologically this. We also have the High Republic book recaps and discussions coming soon. The first of which probably drops this Friday. If not, it will drop the next week. But make sure you keep an eye on our social medias for the official release of those. Or just subscribe to us and you'll know when they drop. You can like and subscribe to us here on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where you can also rate and review. It helps other people find the show as well. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you next time.